Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala barakatuh. Alhamdulillah rabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Alhamdulillah, as we propound this idea of positive Islamic psychology and how we base our therapy or our way of reflection using scientific terms of neurobiology, or using methods that have to do with neuroscience and so on, we must not forget that the basis of positive Islamic psychology is Islam itself. So we can have many toolkits which I am propounding to you one by one, and then you can have this whole series of toolkits for positive Islamic psychology, cognitive behavior therapy. But what is important is we got to go back first to the fundamental. Alright, the fundamental is that basically how our positive F.E.T, our positive feelings, emotions and thoughts in our salah, in our zikr and other ibadah, how we are going to understand this from the perspective of Islam. Naturally, when we apply this, we will describe it slightly differently from our great ulama of the past or other scholars in fiqh, in usuluddin, in tawheed, in all the ilms of Islam. Naturally, they have a far better idea of explaining it from the perspective of the Quran and the Sunnah. I'm giving you an overview so that we don't be lost in this glamour of just using just neuroscience only, because in the modern world, people who are psychiatrists or psychologists, they become arrogant. That everything that exists, whether peacefulness, calmness, acceptance, surrender, submission, forgiveness, they use those terms, but they deny the Creator, they deny Allah. Or they may even use the term, all this come from the intelligent universe. So seek from the intelligent universe. May I ask, who is that intelligent universe? Alright, you can change the term, but if you want to evade this whole reality that we are bounded by, in Islam, by the belief and the submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I'm going to explain to you this whole idea of how we can fortify our feelings, emotion and thoughts in our salah, in our zikr, in our remembrance of Allah, in our other ibadah. First, understanding the fundamental idea of the basic principles. You can never get out of it. So whoever teaches you anything outside that realm, then you have to be a little bit skeptical, because as I say, this idea of our salah, our zikr, our ibadah is all within the framework of Islam and has been taught by our great from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to his sahabas, to the tabi'in, to all the great scholars, that has developed many approaches that bring us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Alright, so if you want, for example, modern contemporary scholars that you can study in great detail, for example, you can go to Sheikh Abdul Hakam Murad Winters. Fantastic details that you can study in terms of the details of how you're going to approach your ibadah, your salah and so on. Or Sheikh Hamza Yusuf Hansen, or many other scholars that you can study. These are contemporary scholars that you can open the YouTube and you can see how beautifully they explain in great depth and detail using traditional books. They may refer to books from the various scholars of the past, and you go through a series of studies with them. And inshallah, you'll find that those detailed explanation is so deep and so intellectually sound and so true that it will bring you to tears to understand how deep is this ilm that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has bestowed upon this ummah. So I'm not going to that direction, but I'm just giving you some basic ideas, references from those teachings, and I summarized it in the various form. For example, we must understand our purpose in life for our progression. That means in our life we have our feeling, emotion and thoughts progression. So our feelings, emotion and thoughts, these are okay, we use this term, all right, to represent In Islam, we can say that this represents our nafs or ourself, because finally, at the spiritual level, we are energy beings. At the quantum level, we are energy beings. So we have feelings, emotion, and thoughts. All right? But this, as I say, need a lot of discussion, but we are not directing to that direction. We're directing to how we understand first our purpose in life, and how in doing so we progress to become a true mu'min, a true Muslim, and how we can then help others to achieve peace, happiness, and success in this world and the hereafter. So our basis always in the Quran, Allah start with taqwa. You have many verses. Ittaqullah, fear Allah, be conscious of Allah. If you do good, so all the time Allah tells us about taqwa. So what does taqwa means? There are many interpretations of taqwa, but first, when we start our ibadah or our salah, our worship, when we say Allahu Akbar, we must bring to our feelings, emotion, and thoughts what? Consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He is present. Allah is nearer to us than our jugular vein, and He hears. Even though where we can reach the stage in which we have this feeling that Allah is seeing us all the time, even though we cannot see Allah, Allah is seeing us. So when we start our ibadah, we say Allahu Akbar, we straight away bring to our feelings, emotion, and thoughts, or you can call it our mind, God consciousness. And then we bring this idea of fear of transgression. When we cite, for example, the Fatiha, when we recite the Fatiha, we say, Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in, to you we worship, to you we seek help from. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim, show us the straight path. Siratal ladhina an'amta alayhim, the path of those who receive your grace. Ghairil maghdubi alayhim, not the path of those who transgress. Alright? So we fear that transgression. Ghairil maghdubi alayhim waraddallin, of those who have gone astray. So this level is very important, because we must understand back, we are doing this not because we want to meditate, not because we want something from the dunya or what. Whichever that you can request in your sujood, in whatever, you can do that. But the purpose, fundamental purpose, is taqwa. From taqwa, then we would then be able to develop our feeling, emotion, and thoughts towards what? This is very important, because this is where Islam is. Islam is surrender and submission to Allah. What's the meaning of Islam? Surrender and submission to Allah. So when we surrender and submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we will then remove the fear of the dunya, the fear of others, because we submit only to Allah. In our worship, we put no partners unto Him. So we surrender and submit to Him, so that we don't need to surrender to all the evils of the world. We don't need to surrender to the, for example, the evil dictators, or the evil politicians, or the evil crooks, or the scammers, or the murderers. So many of this in the social environment, you see, they create fear, or gangsters, or mafia, whatever it is. They try to create fear in you. But in Islam, our fear solely relies on our submission and surrender to Allah. From then we free ourselves from the fear of others. So once you have done that, then your next level would be, then you develop within your feelings and thought of peace. This is very important. So in your prayer, you receive sakina. Allah brings in sakina into your heart. Alright? So this sakina descends on you, and you feel the joy. Because at this level, then you have the joy of worship. Your worship become a joy. It's not a chore anymore. Alright? So naturally, you have to bring your feeling, emotion, and thoughts in the progressive manner. Alright? And then finally, at the highest level, you develop love. This is the most important, where we have this hubbullah, our hubb, our love of Allah, our love of Prophet Muhammad, our love of all in the ummah, all humanity, all godly creatures, and so on. So when we develop this, then we achieve total success in this world and hereafter. So whatever that we want in life is actually the foundational ideal for a balanced life, for a peaceful, wonderful feeling, emotional thoughts, mental states are imbued in the very basic fundamental idea of salah. So when we do salah 5 times a day, it's not that, it's just sure I go to pray to Allah. No. Allah does not need our prayer, but we need His gifts of God consciousness, submission and surrender. He gives His gifts of peace and joy, His gift of love, and then we achieve the totality of the meaning and purpose in life, so that inshallah our ibadah become accepted to us. And when we do that, inshallah, we will not have this turmoil of anxiety, of depression, of fear of this dunya, of fear of dying, of fear of all the thousands and thousands of kind of fears that this modern civilization have created. That says that even children now are living in fear. They have done studies, for example, students are having depression. Children are having depression, they're having fears, they're having worries, which is ridiculous, because they have no anchor. And our anchor is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Our love is towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Our submission is towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We seek the joy of salah, the joy of zikr, the joy of other ibadah in our submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in our love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to receive His descent on His mercy and mercy and mercy of endless sea of mercy that from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala descends upon His goodly creatures in this world, and only to His goodly creatures in the hereafter. So what is important is for us to understand that if we're going to teach you all fields of psychology, your fundamental idea is always back to our basics in Islam. And our basics in Islam, under our Arkanul Islam, we say the Shahada, then we implement the Shahada in our Salah, in our Zikr, and in our other Ibadah, so that we will be first and foremost a person accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because when He accepts you and gives you the peace, the happiness, and the love, you do not need all other kind of love. So this is the basis in which I want to bring in, because I'm going to give you other toolkits. But always help yourself understand your purpose and meaning, and how you can progress developing your feeling, emotion and thoughts towards taqwa, submission to Allah, develop peace, develop love, and finally you achieve the fulfillment of being the servant of Allah that's accepted by Him for your good living in this world and the hereafter. So inshallah we would then understand this, and I will give you other toolkits, so that inshallah from this basis onward, I hope I have given you a framework so that there will be no confusion in future, because we're going to do a lot of other techniques based on neuroscience, based on meditation, based on reflection, which is within the preview of Islam, but it could be variation to it. And those things are something that you can implement in your life, inshallah, with the grace of Allah. Thank you.